Night edition of Locked on Astros. They win game 2 of the 2022 World Series. Framber Valdez comes out and shoves. Jose Altuve starts the game off with a bang. The 3 of the first 4 pitches were doubles. Zack Wheeler looked absolutely pedestrian. The Astros bullpen locked it down. And we're going to talk about this as the Astros head back to Philly with the series tied 1-1, and momentum could be shifting in our direction. Let's go.
Hello and welcome to Locked on Astros, your daily Astros podcast. Here are your hosts, Eric the Man Heisman and Brett H-Town Wheelhouse Chansey.
We are Locked on Houston Astros, and we're your daily Astros podcast. I'm H-Town Wheelhouse. You can find me on Twitter at H-Town Wheelhouse. You can find me at H-Town Wheelhouse on Instagram and TikTok as well. You can find me at Stros411 on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Always positive, always Stros. You can find the show at Locked on Astros on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok now. Eric does a good job manning that. Eric is not here. We're having technical difficulties, and we may have another episode, but I know tomorrow night we will have an episode talking about Game 3. We may bring in Connor Thomas again from Locked on Phillies, but you can find him at Eric Talk Stros on Twitter. You can find him at Eric Heisman on Instagram as well. So thank y'all for tuning in to Locked on Astros. Remember, we're your team every day. This episode is brought to you by ours truly. And I say ours truly because Eric and we put a lot of time and effort into this. And I just want to say thank you to all the people that I got to meet tonight from the show. I got to I actually ran into Ben Verlander tonight. And it was great. He said, man, I love being on your show. He talked to his producer about us. We got our name out there more. And I got to meet some of our loyal listeners. Just had a blast doing that, meeting you guys in public. It's always fun to meet fans of the show and people who actually genuinely enjoy our content. So, King Sam, I met you tonight. Thank you for hanging out. I also met, I met Valerie and Juan, who are in from San Diego. Juan is in the Marine Corps. Thank you for your service. And I met Raina tonight and her husband and a few others. So thank y'all so much for hanging out and making it a fun night. This game started out the way that it absolutely had to start out. The Houston Astros needed to make a statement early, and they needed to make a statement that they were here to stay. And Jose Altuve first pitch double was absolutely a tone setter. This is what you have been missing in this series. And then comes Jeremy Pena, the kid. He gets a double. And then Alvarez gets a double, nearly hits a home run. And Bregman tonight with his only hit was a 3-run home run. Just a phenomenal performance. I mean, Tucker, Gurriel, Diaz, Dubon didn't get any at bats, and then Maldonado were all over. Chas McCormick got a hit, but the doubles today were phenomenal to see. All in the first inning, they scored 3 runs, then they scored 2 runs in the 5th, and that's all they needed. But let's talk about Zack Wheeler. Zack Wheeler he's their ace. Was their ace. He is the guy that the Phillies put in game 2 because Rob Thompson thought that if we can steal a game, if the Phillies can steal a game in game 1 and get the victory, then we can put our ace, who is Zack Wheeler, or their ace as Zack Wheeler, in game 2 and possibly go back to Philly 2-0. Not a bad game plan on paper. The Astros had something else to say. They came out aggressive. We talked last night. Eric and I talked both about how the Astros took a lot of first pitch strikes, and they really were aggressive at the plate, and they really tried really hard to basically stymie the pitching. And what we saw out of the Astros offense, even though they only scored 5 runs, was they did just enough to get things started. So Zack Wheeler comes out and gives up the 3 runs, the Houston Astros the rest of the way, it was pretty much the Framber Valdez show. Framber Valdez looked like an absolute ace on the mound, and I believe he's our ace going forward. He is one of our guys who really um, he knows how to set things right. He knows how to set the tone, and he did so. Let me bring Eric in. It looks like he was able to make it in. What's up, Eric? How you doing?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, man, I got you. I got you,
Okay.
man. That's
We don't
way
have an
better than
echo or
earlier.
anything like that?
I mean, it's a little bit of an echo. I mean, it's a little bit of an echo, but it's not like an echo, like it's not a
Okay.
repeat sound. But go ahead, man. We got people on.
Yeah,
What'd you
this was a
what'd you think
great
about the game
game. I
tonight?
mean, it was great to watch with a big crowd, and Framber Valdez was in total control, just like you were just saying, and he did what Justin Verlander could not do. So it was a great game, a great defense for the most part. I mean, you had Jeremy Pena with that weird play where he threw the ball to Jose Altuve, who Altuve was ducking because he thought the ball was going to go to first base. But overall, everything went well in this game. So Framber Valdez, he is probably the Astros' best pitcher at the moment. But yeah, that was just crazy how. And this is the first time in World Series history
Are we,
that the Astros have won.
Yeah, exactly. So that was great to see. To kind of go back to game one, Eric, it was interesting because I actually met the Verlanders. I met Ben and Justin's mom and dad and talked to them for about 35 minutes. And it was a really good conversation. And we talked about the human element of these baseball players. And they talked to me about how it was difficult watching that game. As you know, he's like, when your son's out there on the mound and he's pitching impeccable, and then all of a sudden things kind of get derailed a little bit. He said, but these guys are human, and usually after a game we go and hang out with Justin, and we go eat. But last night he just went straight home. He was just as bothered by that game last night as anybody else was. And so when we as fans think that we care about the game as much as the players do, I promise you the players have a whole lot more invested in the game. And so that was just a good thing. That was a fun thing to get to talk to them. Got a picture with them. I actually did a short. If y'all check it out on YouTube, I did a little interview. He talks to Locked on Astros Nation, and I love going into Philly. Todd, I think this is a series that we can really grab a hold of. And even with that crowd out there, Eric, I think good things are coming our way.
Yeah, and I've heard a lot of people on Twitter, not just Phillies fans, but a lot of people say that the Phillies crowd is a lot worse than Dodgers. It's a lot worse than Yankees. It's a different group out there. So it's definitely something that the Astros are going to have to learn how to handle. And I think the Astros' advantage is you have Lance McCullers going in game 3, and then you have Christian Javier going in game 4. Who do they have? They have Noah Syndergaard, who's great, but he's not as good as Lance McCullers is. And then you have Ranger Suarez, who's can be good, but the Astros did touch him up during regular season. So I know it's the regular season, but still.
Yeah, I think at this point you get to the vulnerability of the Phillies, and I think the Phillies absolutely had to win this game. I think the Astros had to win this game. I think if the Astros go into Philadelphia 0-2, that it's not impossible, but the probability drops. Like, I mean, the floor falls out from under your feet, and you've got to grip everything you have with your ability and try to get over your mistakes. And I mean, the defense was there other than the play. Like, when I saw that play, Jeremy Pena, I don't think his reflex to throw the ball must have started before he looked, because it looked like he was looking right at Altuve, and Altuve was bent down. Maybe he forgot that there were already two outs, and I think that's why he was trying to get that lead runner. But things are going to happen. Those types of things are going to happen. And great teams overcome mistakes. Kyle Schwarber's near home run. Oh my gosh, what a towering foul ball. I've never seen a foul ball cause more ruckus in a stadium. and everybody was yelling. Even the fans, they showed the fans, they were up there in the upper deck where the ball was hit, and they were like, check the headphones, go to the headphones. And luckily, it was foul because that could have changed the game on a dime. Kyle Schwarber is an absolute beast. But he took care of Harper tonight, Eric. Schwarber was 1 for 3. Hoskins 1 for 3. JT Realmuto, pretty much the hero of game 1 for 4. Harper did not get a hit. Castellanos only had 1 hit. Baum and Segura each had a hit. And we struck out 11 Phillies. The Astros only struck out, well, they had 11 strikeouts. The Astros only had 6. And look, Jose Altuve is almost batting 200 right now. With a 3 for 4 night, he's batting 171.
Baby steps, but Schwarber's foul ball home run, that I think he rounded the bases on. I think he thought it was a home run, but that was 403 feet. So that was a blast. And then the next ball took Kyle Tucker to the wall. That was 353 feet. So yeah, those are both kind of scary there. And that's the situation where, like you said, it really it's the difference in today's game versus game 1. It just seemed like everything fell apart for the Astros late in the game. But in this one, everything kind of worked the way it's supposed to. You had Montero come in, and I know Montero, you probably could have brought Ryan Presley in for maybe a 4-out save, but I think that Dusty Baker did a right job by keeping Montero in. I think that, and even in the 9th inning, Presley, I think you had Yuli with that error that led to the run scoring.
Yes, yeah.
But
yeah,
overall,
like
good.
Yeah, that ball kicked weird. His glove was there, but if you watch the slow-mo replay, it had an awkward spin. And I mean, he put his glove where the ball was. The ball just kept rising and hit the heel of his glove. That's a rare mistake by Yuli Gurriel. Tonight, Eric, when Montero was in there, 1 2/3 innings pitched. Now, he only gave up 1 hit and 1 walk. But in that type of game, it seemed like, wait, why are you leaving Montero in? Neris got up and then sat back down. And then what did he do? I mean, it's basically 5-2 at that point. He brings in, he brings in his closer. And Ryan Presley gets up and actually, he gave up the one. Actually, sorry, it's 5-1. He gives up the 1 run. And so I guess it turns into a save situation. But he has full confidence in his guys. And Montero pitched that many pitches because there's a day off. And he's probably going to use Montero again. I kind of wanted to see Neris in that after he got the second out. I'm like, okay, put Neris in. If you're going to put Neris in for like 1 out in the first game, might as well do it the second game and let this guy, because this guy's fired up. This guy's ready to go. But he heated up, and good thing they don't have a game tomorrow, because if he heated up today and didn't pitch, like Ryan Stanek said, he typically don't pitch the next day. So they got the day off. They're going to travel. Supposed to be rain in the forecast Monday. Could be a delay or a postponement, which I don't know that it hurts either team more, one or the other. But the Astros clearly have made a statement today. And I think this game, when they scored 5 runs, was a lot different than the 5 runs they scored before because of the multiple hits that they stacked up. And this is what's interesting. 7 hits by the Astros, 6 hits by the Phillies. And the Astros actually had 2 errors to the Phillies 1. So baseball is an odd sport.
You may have already talked about it, but the Astros are, I think, the first time in maybe franchise history, or maybe it was MLB history, to start the game off with back-to-back doubles. That was just impressive. That just set a tone early. And I thought going into this game, I know we didn't talk about it yesterday's podcast a lot, but the Astros tend to do well against hard thrown pitchers like Zack Wheeler. So I thought that would have been an advantage, and we saw that early. And now the Phillies have thrown 2 of their best pitchers at us. Nola, they scored 5 runs off him. Then Wheeler, they scored 5 runs off of him. So yeah, I'm not too worried about the Phillies starting pitching. The bullpen is about as on the same level as the Astros, but I think that overall now we got to face the other guys compared to our guys. So I wonder what Bet Online would think are odds of the Astros winning.
Well, I think they're still pretty good, because I'll be real honest. I don't think their relief pitching is on par with ours. They may have 2 or 3 pieces that match ours. but they don't match the depth. So look, if you're having a hard time deciding where to go or what to do or who to bet on, betonline.net is your number one source for all your betting, football, and the start of the new basketball season. Find all the latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, and in-depth analysis on every game. And as always, BetOnline remains your continued source for all your sports wagering information, live betting, and up-to-the-minute scores for every sport out there. The fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite games and events, including MLB, MMA, boxing, and golf. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts. So the Houston Astros, Eric, you said Lance McCullers going game 3.
Yeah.
Christian Javier going game 4. I'm wondering, with Lance McCullers' last outing, should Javier be going to game 3? Or is Javier your guy that you know that if you get game 3 and you steal that he's the guy you want to count on for that game 4 to drive the dagger even further into the heart of the Phillies?
Well, we know who Dusty Baker is by now. He's the type of guy that's going to go with the more veteran guy. He's the one that's going to try to get Justin Verlander to the fifth inning, even though he didn't know that was his. He doesn't have a World Series victory. Apparently, that's what he said before today's game. He was like, "Oh, I didn't know that until my son told me that he hasn't had a victory in the World Series." So, yeah. So I think that the fact that McCullers went in game 4 of the ALCS had to do with the fact that he got hit by the bottle. So I think he was always going to be the game 3 starter. I think they have a lot more confidence in him. I think even though Javier came out and dominated, I just think that that's just what they wanted. Maybe the matchup is better versus Syndergaard. I don't know why, but I'm okay with it. McCullers, game 1 on the road. I think maybe in that situation, you need somebody more of the bulldog mentality like Lance McCullers. And I'm not saying that Javier is a weakling or anything, but I just think that McCullers is the guy that's going to feed off that energy and probably pitch a heck of a game.
Yeah, and so I don't know, man. I'm really taken back by people calling Justin Verlander our worst pitcher. I think that's I think that's nuance. I think that's a pretty bad baseball take. He is not our worst pitcher. He's had a lot of bad luck, and he hasn't gotten a win. And yes, he has the highest ERA of any pitcher in Major League Baseball history, but he's not our worst pitcher. He's Justin Verlander. He's one of the best pitchers that we've seen in this generation, and you can't take that away from him. If he doesn't perform in a certain type of setting, then okay, he doesn't perform. That doesn't mean he's our worst pitcher. I think he's the pitcher that's not performed the best, but even when he hasn't performed his best, the team has backed him up. You know, that game could have swung on any single event. And if 2 or 3 things go our way, or even one thing goes our way in that game, Eric, we're not talking about Justin Verlander losing. We're talking about Justin Verlander did enough so that the Astros could win. And the bottom line is our bats went silent at the end of game 1. So that's not just on the pitcher. It's on the hitters too. You win as a team, you lose as a team. This team has the fortitude. And I was asked tonight by Ben Verlander, I was asked a couple questions. I was asked who would win out of the mascots, the Philly Fanatic or Orbit. And they asked me, Eric, and I'm going to ask you because a fan said on Twitter, ask Eric the question he asked you about what you would give up. They asked me, what would I give up in order for the Astros to win a World Series again this year? And I said I would give up my Ted Williams autographed baseball that I got in person, and I would give up my Ken Griffey Jr., Ken Griffey Sr. signed baseball on the sweet spot if that meant the Astros would win the World Series. What would you give up that is close to you, something you have, something you cherish, that you'd be willing to give up for the Astros to win the World Series?
So somebody's asking, when is that giveaway, Brett?
No. Oh, I'm not giving it to y'all. No, sorry, that's a hypothetical question. So tell me, Eric, what would you give up?
I don't know. I mean, I have a whole bunch of memorabilia, but I don't know if I would give up anything to win a championship. I mean, I think that I mean, the team doesn't need me to do it. That's what I'm saying.
No, Eric, you're missing the point. It's just a fun question to ask. What would you be willing to give up to see the Astros win the 2022 World Series? You have to give up one thing. What are you
Okay.
giving up?
Um, I've had this autographed Jeff Bagwell ball since 1991.
Okay.
I guess I would give that up.
Wow.
So
And as big of
that
a
doesn't mean I'm
Bagwell
giving up.
fan, no. No one,
Got it.
Fox Sports on it. Fox Sports or Flipping Bats podcast is not going to come knocking on my door. Someone says my kidney. That's awesome. Wow. Hey, hey man, better you than me. But yeah, I'm definitely not giving up organs. I don't even have organ donor on my license. Sorry, folks. It's not happening for me. And dude, I was really surprised. I really thought we were going to put 5, 6, 7, 8 runs on Wheeler. Like I just like, oh my gosh, this game's going to go south really quick. And then when the Astros didn't add to the 3 runs, it's like, all right, we need more runs, and we got those 2 runs. We got the Alex Bregman home run, the as Ken Rosenthal said, dad power. You know, um, he said I don't know if my son saw it, but like he's into this. His son watching him play, and I mean his son's really young. His son's not going to remember anything that's going on, but to Alex Bregman, it makes things more special. It almost kind of makes him bulletproof, Eric. And that's what I think this team has a lot of intangible advantages that the Phillies don't have. The Phillies have their own intangible advantages. They have some rookies, they have some guys, some young players that are really stepping up for them. And they don't care about the spotlight. They don't care that the Astros are the favorites. They believe they're there to win, and they believe they deserve to win. And you want that in your opponent. You want them to feel like they deserve to be there.
Yeah. And I know that one thing that's kind of shocking is Babe Ruth and Alex Bregman have the same amount of postseason home runs with 15. And
Wow.
and I believe that he is the he's for a third baseman in the postseason. He has the most home runs. So it's just what Alex Bregman has been doing. I remember a couple years on a podcast, somebody was arguing like, no, Bregman's not a good postseason player. Yeah, he's had his moments where he hasn't shined, but I think we're seeing a different Alex Bregman this year. We're seeing a much more confident Alex Bregman, and we saw it in today's game when he hit that home run. And I know the stadium went crazy. I know the Halloween party I was at, they went crazy. So it's just a great team to have. And the best thing about today's game, where were most of the hits from? The top of the order. That's something that the Astros have been lacking. You haven't been getting the constant production
Yeah.
from Altuve, from Alvarez recently. So now you are. So if Altuve keeps on hitting, you get a little bit more from Alvarez. Tucker keeps on doing what Tucker is doing. I think that this team is going to be fine. And I know before the party, I took a picture of myself in my Marty McFly outfit. I had to take it off. It was really hot. I don't know how you filmed that. It's a lot of clothes to wear. But and I said, don't worry, guys. I went to the future and I saw it. The Astros will be okay. I
Yeah,
really
saw
think
that.
this series is still in Astros' hands. They have the best pitching. I think what the Phillies did was what they've done the entire postseason. They've come in, they've won game one. Okay, now let's go ahead and upset the apple cart and go ahead and beat them game two. I mean, and that's what we did. Now let's go beat them at game one at home for them with their big crowd and beat them like they did us.
That would be huge because their first 2 series, they did the same thing they've done now. They split, and then they went back to Philly, and what do? They won. They haven't lost a game. So
Right.
this is something the Astros will have to accomplish that no other team has accomplished this year in the playoffs against Philadelphia. But I just am convinced that the Astros have the perfect counterpunch to the Philadelphia Phillies. So, Eric, I think that really wraps up this game really nicely. Altuve, Pena, Alvarez leading things off, Bregman with the big home run. I mean, it's just getting 3 hits from Altuve. Like when he got a hit, you would have thought that it was the first time that anybody had ever seen a player hit a baseball in their life. I mean, people were so. I mean, kids. There were kids. We were hanging out at Cobos Q down in Edo, and the kids were going nuts. I'm like, everybody loves Jose Altuve, and all the Yankees fans that say all the F Altuve stuff, y'all know y'all like this guy. I'm like, how can you not like this dude? He
You
is an
got it.
awesome. I got it. Don't worry about it.
All right.
He is an
So
awesome player.
yeah. By the way, speaking of awesome player, somebody was saying in the chat that that the playoffs are stressful. Do you remember that? 5 years ago today was one of the most stressful games in Astros history. It was Game 5 of the 2017 World Series, a game the Astros won 13-12. Do you remember that game? It was like the back and forth, like the Astros take the lead, then they lose the lead, and all the craziness that happened in that game. So the Astros would win on Alex Bregman's walk-off single in the 10th inning. So back in time, going with the
Yeah,
whole back in the future, that's what happened 5 years
but I
ago.
think yeah, but I think the whole stressful thing compared to that game was at epic levels. The stress level of that, and if y'all are listening, you can't see my hand. I'm holding my hand at the top of my screen. That stress level for Game 5 of that World Series was way up here.
Right.
I think the stress level for this one was not nearly as much. I just think the anticipation from the Astros fan base was, okay, oh crap, we're up by 5. Should I be worried about this? And it's called a recency bias. It's like I was talking to someone tonight about Brian Abreu and how he's come along. And I asked them if they remembered when Abreu was part of the game against the Yankees. I think he gave up 3 or 4 runs, or he was responsible for 3 or 4 runs. And Twitter went nuts. Oh my God, Abreu, every time he pitches, he gives up a run. And literally, that was like June, I think. And he hadn't given up a run since like April 23rd, only basically 2 months. And we have such a hard time not to forget. We can't forget something that happened just recently. Like Brian Presley gave up 1 run, and I promise you, next time he goes in, why is Dusty using Presley? Every time he goes out there, he gives up a run. But it's literally the first run he's been tagged with all postseason. And still, this bullpen, Eric, continues to mow down the opponents. That's 1 run. That's 4 runs. Well, let's see.
They scored some
Maybe
runs
on.
yesterday too.
Say again.
Are you talking about the bullpen?
It's about the bullpen. The bullpen gave up 1 run yesterday.
Yeah.
So they've only given up 5 runs, Eric, in the entire playoffs total. That's it. 5. The Phillies are not the better team. The Astros are still the better team. The Astros still have a chance to win this. The Phillies still have a chance,
Right.
but I like the Astros' chances way better.
Yeah. So now that we're back even, it's just a best of 5 series now. So whoever wins 3 games now is going to win the World Series. So you got to kind of think of it like that. You got to go play in Philadelphia. So now they're the home team. So you got to win 2, 3 games there, and then win 1 game at Minute Park. Then you can take care of it. Or if they win 2, then you have to win the next 3 games or something like that. So it's
I
just
need them to clinch in Game 6. That's what I need them to do.
right.
I want to be done in Game 6. I want to be done. Honestly, I wouldn't be heartbroken if they took 3 in a row, won 4 games in a row, which I don't think they'll do. But that would just be absolutely soul crushing. I would love that. And yes, Phillies fans. I mean, look, I'll hand it to you. You guys are bold. You guys are serious. I mean, I saw dudes talking smack in the streets of Houston before the game, and they were outnumbered like 800-1. And they're talking smack, and they got their Harper jersey. Some guy was wearing a Ryan Howard BP jersey from the 90s or something, or whenever he played. And I was just like, come on, man. Look, 1 game at a time. And this game was the most important, and the Astros won. So for myself and Eric Heisman, I think that's all we got for y'all tonight. Eric, you got any parting words? We'll be
No, we'll
back
go
tomorrow
ahead and
night.
look. Yeah, we'll look more into the Game 3 matchups in tomorrow's podcast, but this is definitely this was a must win for the Astros, and I think it definitely was something the Astros needed. I think fans needed it. I think that after Game 1, how it ended, I think, and just everything that happened, I think that they needed this victory today. And who else to better have on the mound than Mr. Quality Start himself and Framber Valdez? Dusty Baker tried to get him to 7 innings, but wasn't quite. He didn't quite have enough. But overall, this was a great game, exciting to watch, and both games have been exciting in different ways, but this one was a little bit less stressful. So that's all we got for this edition of the Locked On Astros podcast. My name is Eric Heisman. He is Brett Chansey, and we will see you tomorrow. And go Astros. You have to do it.